You don't start things and not finish them. You don't quit. There's nothing that comes out of quitting besides knowing that you didn't finish. We finish everything. You start it, finish it. If you're going to do it to try to be the best. Not to be better than other people, but to be the best for you. You grind hard so you can play hard. The work you put in will pay off. It could be a year, it could be 30 years, but you keep grinding. Welcome to Big Reptile Talk.
What is up? Welcome to the podcast. This is Big Reptile Talk. Super excited today. We are bringing on, he's infamous. He is infamous in the reptile hobby. We all know what happened in North Carolina. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. This is exclusive. We know what the news said. Everybody watched the news. We know what the news, said about the situation. But now let's hear it firsthand. Let's hear what happened that day. Let's hear, his take on it. Let's get his side of the story. And let's just tell a story, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Before we get started, of course, much love to the sponsors. So shout out to Venom-proof cages, amazing cages. Please go check them out if you're into the venomous hobby. Shout out to Balls to You. Quality shines through. Just amazing snakes. Please go check Gavin out. Of course, as always, go give Mike Monitor some love. If you want to monitor, Mike is the way to go. And of course, Ozzy Boys. You don't even need, introduction. Ozzy Boys. If you like ball pythons, go give them a shout out. Thank you, everybody that's showing up in the chat. What's up, Kerwood, Gary, Kara Shea, Lady Tis Exotic. Shout out to everybody that is showing up. So without further ado, let's bring Mr. Chris in. Super excited to have you here, man. How you doing today, big dog?
How you doing tonight?
I can't call it, man. Just excited to hear what happened firsthand. We'll get into that. But before we get there, I kind of want to get a backstory. So, before this happened, you're living with your parents. My first question to you is, shout out to Cody, man. Cody's here.
Yeah.
My first question is, how did you convince your parents to allow you to have so many snakes in their home? Because I couldn't convince my mom to give me a fucking gerbil. And you had, I don't know how many snakes.
Yeah.
So how did you convince your parents to allow that?
At the time, when everything happened, I had 75 snakes. I think there was like one or two that weren't venomous. But it's funny enough, I always liked snakes, but it was my dad who got me into snakes. When we were a kid, we would go up to the mountains in PA. He had a cabin house. We would flip rocks and find 30 snakes in a day, from like copperheads to smooth green, rough green snakes, ringnecks, garter snakes, all sorts of stuff. So my dad had always was fine and okay with animals. And then I kept snakes for probably 10 years, like since I was 8 years old, from like 8 to 17. It was about 9 years of keeping non-venomous animals. My dad was, when I said, hey, I want to start getting into venomous, like this is something that I want to follow, I want to pursue. At first he was like, I don't know, that's pretty dangerous. But after like 2 days of talking, then it was just, all right, let's convince the mom. So the mom is, all right, well, first things first, we're going to check the laws. Like, this has got to be redo everything, rethink everything. This can be super dangerous. So she was not as happy about it as first. But eventually we kind of convinced her, like, hey, it's not that bad. Like, well, it's ironic now, but these animals are secure. Nothing's going to happen. I've been working with these animals my whole life. And I had been around venomous since I was a kid. I think the first time I would always go out herping. I'd go catch copperheads, cottonmouths, a lot of the native venomous. And it was probably around like 16 or 17 when I first started getting experience with different elapids, all sorts of different cobras, snouteds, forest cobras, monocleds, gaboons. So I started getting experience with non-native and exotics probably a year to 2 years prior of owning. So they were comfortable with the sense of safety, but my mom, again, kind of eked out like, there'll be snakes in the house, but I have a great relationship with my parents. So they were like, all right, well, we'll let it happen.
Okay. Insane. I think my first venomous snake was a copperhead, and I had to beg my wife for months before she would let me bring it in the house. She was like, no, 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 and I think she said so. Well, what the reason she let me get my copperhead was I would walk around and my lips was stuck out, and like every time my wife would talk to me, she was like, "What's the matter? Nothing. I'm just sad." And one day she just said, "Get the damn snake. I'm sick of your shit. Get the damn snake."
Oh yeah, it was definitely like when I had finally like set my mind to it. Because here was my thought process. I'm gonna be going to college soon. Like, what if one day I find a woman and she hates snakes? What if I'm never able to like own the animals I love to enjoy? So I'm like, you know what? I want to get it out of the way. And I was like, every day I'd be like, hey guys, so like my buddy has these available, et cetera, et cetera. And he was actually the person that had helped out and mentored. And so it was kind of just after like a week or two, like it was like one day with my dad. And then after like, I'd say probably like a month or two, just talking to our mom, she eventually came in and was like, all right, there we go.
Right. Now, I want to talk about your collection of snakes because you had shit that just will put people's collection to shame. So I want you to kind of talk about some of the stuff you had. You know, you had Shane vipers, fucking mambas, shit that I don't even know. Of course, I ain't been in the hobby that long, but I don't even know where you fucking buy a Shane viper at. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I want you to talk about some of the stuff you had in your collection, if you can.
The animals, I love my animals, man. They were awesome. So some of the cooler stuff I'd say, obviously the Mangshans. If you guys don't know about Mangshans, it's pretty much a critically endangered species found in one mountain range. Those two babies that I got, they came in with about I think 20 that came into the U.S. And they were imported from Europe. So those came from European breeders. And that was a dream species. When I was about 8 years old, same time when I was really, really getting into snakes. Are you familiar with Dean Repa?
I've heard, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Dean Repa, legend in the snake world, especially venomous snakes. He owned a serpentarium out in Cape Fear. When I was a kid, he would take me to his facility, and I would go back a few times, and he would take me to his back room, show me these Bushmasters and Mangshans. And when my eyes laid upon Mangshans, I was like, one day I'm gonna own that snake. And so when I saw that some had gone up on the market, I was like, I'm grabbing them immediately. Some other cool animals, I had a really awesome pair of sharp-nosed vipers, the Inocushigana acutus. They used to be brought in a lot, but not as much anymore. Obviously, I had mambas. So I had two West African green mambas. Those are the ones that kind of have the black fade on the pattern. They get a little longer. And then I've also always loved the Eastern greens. So Eastern green mamba, Dendroaspis angusticeps, they're lime green. I finally gotten a pair of those. There were also a lot of really cool South American vipers. I'm a huge fan of the genus Bothrops. And so a lot of people, you see the Bothrops asper and Bothrops atrox, which is the fertilance, common name known as. But I had picked up from a buddy in Ohio, it's Bothrops jararakusu, which is this, and that's the name of it, the formal name, jararakusu, and a marbled lancehead. I spent months and months and months trying to talk to all different breeders across the U.S., and I could not. I only found one person in the U.S. that had another pair of Marmoratus, which was the marbled lanceheads. So there was a lot of cool stuff. And obviously we had the classics. I had 4 big old gaboons. And funny story that you say your first snake was a copperhead. Those are one of my favorite species. They're in the top 3. I love them. I had 4 copperheads, which was the legal limit in North Carolina, the Southerns. And then I had 2 beautiful red, the broad-banded copperheads. We had the rhino vipers, paraforest cobras, snouted cobras, Cape Cobra. There was a lot. There was a good bit of animals for sure.
I love it, man, and I love that you use those educational names because somebody like me, I don't know how to say all that shit. Usually the Bothrops, that damn Triceratops, Eurythrania, you actually know this is the snake, this is the scientific name. So you do actually have that knowledge, man. I love it. Now I gotta ask you now. What was your favorite snake in your collection?
Oh, that's hard. So it bounces between 3 animals. I had this I had this really big Naja annulifera, which is the banded snouted cobra. And he was about 7 foot long, and his name was Harold. Now, Harold was an absolute sweetheart. It was like a 7-foot corn snake with venom glands. I mean, he was a puppy doll. That snake was really awesome. Obviously, the Mangshans have always been a dream species, but when they're younger, they're super nippy. They don't have necessarily that personality. It's definitely a slower game for them to kind of work on their temperament. So another favorite species, yeah, my top 3 would be Harold, and then I had my adult female sharp-nosed viper. Her name was Sarah Beth. I had started dating a girl, and she saw the animals, and she said, "Name it Sarah Beth." I said, "That is the most frappuccino white girl name I've ever heard in my life, but we'll go with it." That snake was a puppy doll, and they're also known as the Chinese copperhead. So they do somewhat resemble copperheads, which are one of my favorite snakes. So that's probably the top 3 for animals that I appreciated the most. Interacting with them and working with them over time was a pleasure.
I love it, man. I love it, man. Shout out to my Animal House. Thank you for that super sticker. Let's get those likes up. Let's get those super chats going. Now I got to give you a hot seat question, man, because
let's hear it.
Somebody is going, like, your life is the shit out of a movie, and I feel like somebody will eventually make a movie out of it. So my question to you is, if somebody was to make a movie, for instance, do Where's My Car? Let's say we're producing do Where's My Cobra?
Man,
if somebody was to make this, what actor is going to play you?
That takes about 0.2 seconds to reply, and there's no way it can't be Tom Holland, bro.
Spider-Man, I love it. I love it. How did you feel about when shit kind of hit the fan, man? How did you feel about the memes? Did you kind of laugh?
With the media, so there was this. It was obviously upsetting. There was the memes. Oh, the memes, bro. They were great. They were amazing. Like, it's the creativity that I found with people. So, fun story. They had made shirts. They even made Christmas ornaments. Raleigh Spitting Cobra 2021. I met the people that made the ornaments. Went over, took pictures with them. So the memes were rolling through Facebook. They gave a little bit of joy to my life. I was absolutely surprised by the creativity of people. And there were shirts. There was everything, man. It was crazy.
That's insane, man. Insane. I couldn't imagine seeing my face all over the internet, man. But you're taking it with strides, man. Now I want to talk about your TikTok, man. You know, a lot of people in the snake game, they're real big on social media. Like, shout out to Summer. She's real big. Summer and Cody. They're real big on the TikTok scene. 600, 700,000 followers. A lot of people like Tyler Nolan do YouTube. Yeah. You were real big on TikTok, right? If I'm not mistaken, approximately how many followers were on your TikTok?
So I think I'm at 510,000 now.
510,000 followers on TikTok. How does that make you say? I mean, like, how does that make you feel?
It's responsibility. I was a lot more lackadaisical at first with it, but then I realized it's so cool to be able to. As a person, I love entertaining people. I like educating people, and that's the biggest thing. You get me in like a room of people, and I'm a storyteller. So then when I have the ability to storytell to millions of people, and I can give them entertainment, I can give them laughter, I can teach them about these animals, and I can change perspectives, it's crazy. It's like there's so much that you can do with it, and it's like I loved it. I will say, though, I would always do it. Ever since I had a phone, I was recording videos. I don't want to say it took the joy out of it, but for instance, on Snapchat, I'm posting my story all the time. And so what I started doing was just taking videos I would post on my Snapchat or on my Instagram and throw it to TikTok. But then there's the weight behind it of like, oh, make these people happy. You have followers now, kind of deal. So interesting. It's interesting.
You got a comment right here.
I got a comment.
You see that?
I love Gifford. Cody, I love you too, Cody.
Now, I gotta ask, kind of a hot seat question. So currently right now in the hobby, who is your favorite handler?
Favorite handler?
Yeah.
Now, are you talking like big names?
Anybody? Yeah, I prefer big name. Big name in the game. Like, who's your favorite right now? Who is like somebody that Gifford is watching?
Well, okay, so you got a lot of people. For me, I mean, if anybody knows Alexander England, he is killing it in the game, man. He is constantly breeding. You see results. Now, as far as entertainment, education, like on the YouTube, obviously, Tyler and Chandler, they're awesome. They're bringing so much joy to it. There's a little bit of sensationalism there, but that's what draws people in. So I love them. They're pretty cool. But as far as in the venomous hobby, one person that I always look to and try and find as much information as from, he's so education based, is Alexander England. He is he's killing it with animals right now.
Shout out to Alexander England. I'm going to have to check him out. Definitely. Now, don't feel pressured. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I am very curious. So before the shit kind of hit the fan, you had been bit by your mamba. I want you to kind of go back to that day. What happened? How much did an anti-venom cost? Just take us back to that day. What happened, if you don't mind me asking?
This was about 6 months after. So I got in the snake 6 months prior. And one of the only animals that I had not, and honestly, I probably rushed getting into that species. One of the only animals that I hadn't worked with was the genus of mambas. You have the black mambas, the Jamesons, Eastern, and the Western. I started out with a 7-foot wild caught or long-term captive West African mamba. And I had that for about, at the 4-month period, I ended up picking a second one that was going to be a male to the female that I had. And at that 6-month period, it was cleanup day in the reptile room. You know, they had all just eaten 2 days ago, so there was poop everywhere. These snakes have such a high metabolism that they are just constantly going. And since it was a larger snake and they're arboreal, obviously you got to have a good enclosure for it. So I had a custom built 4x4x2, so 4 foot long, 4 foot tall, 2 foot deep. And the thing about this enclosure was it was like cabinet doors kind of. And when it had been built, it had these larger door handles on it. It was literally almost like a door handle instead of just like a simple knob or a simple piece. And so I was like, oh, I got to replace that. I'm not sure. I mean, a snake can grab onto that, but I never got to it. So I had probably like 50 snakes at the time, and I have no idea why, but I just left the mambas for last. I was kind of working my way down the room, and they were near the end of it. So I did both the Easterns. It was literally the last snake of the day I had to clean. The water bowl was terrible. I was going to just take out all the substrate, redo that. And I wanted to decorate some of the wood. And I was a little bit tired, and I could tell mambas are really cognizant. They watch. They are ridiculously smart snakes. And so all day he's just seeing me take all these animals out. And I've worked with this snake, I mean, numerous times. I've had it for months now, so I've had probably over 50 interactions with this animal. And I have 2 hooks that are specifically for mambas, but I didn't really want to double hook him this day. I was going to hook and tail him, which is hand on the tail, hook near the 2/3 section of the snake. And as I had his tail and I was going to pull him out and moved in the bin, he jumped over to the top of one of the doors that was open. He went down the side of the door and he kind of coiled his body, a portion of his body, he coiled it into that door handle. And I was like, oh, well, this is exactly what I didn't like. And so in an attempt to kind of reposition to pull him out with the hook, my hand was all the way up to the left. And as I went to go hook his body, he just popped himself out of the door handle and went fully up. He gapped 7 feet from his head being down at the bottom of the door all the way up to my hand. I didn't have there to stop him because I had just took off to reposition. He flew up and he bit my hand right here. And it was one fang. Now, at the time, Article 55 states bite-proof, escape-proof enclosures, but also bite protocols. So I had a full book of pretty much every single documented species, a USB with every documented case study for any venomous snake, as well as physical hard copies for all the animals that I currently owned. So the snake bit me. I dropped the snake in the hook, and I was like, oh crap, I'm dead. Because I'm 5'7". I'm not a huge built dude, and this is a large mamba, and I could tell it was an envenomation. So then I was like, well, now I have to get the snake back into the container. So. And they can be a hassle. They love going up. Since they're arboreal, their innate instinct is always go up. Thank God when I got the snake back, because he had just scurried away probably a few feet away, grabbed him, got him back in the trash can, closed the lid, grabbed the bite protocol, walk upstairs. And my parents knew. I always let them know whenever I'm going to be doing maintenance on the animal so they don't just like walk downstairs or whatever it may be, making sure somebody's always home. And I Walk upstairs, I see both my parents smiling, and I'm like, man, this is really going to ruin their day. And I'm like, hey guys, just got bit. They're like, haha, okay, what's going on? Thought I was playing a prank, and I was like, start screaming at them, like, no, we got to go right now. Now, the only failure that I had made in this bite was I had not previously established any relationship with local EMS. And I advise anybody else while we're here, because obviously I've made a ton of mistakes. They've been really bad, so I'm here to help other people not make those mistakes. If you guys keep venomous, reach out there, and you're in a legal state, reach out to your hospital. Let them know, hey, these are the animals I have. Get in touch with head of ER, because if I was able to call the phone number and say, hey, I had an accident, it would have saved the publicity. It would have saved time. We could have had an ambulance there pretty quick. So instead of calling an ambulance, my parents were right there, put the hazards on, and we were only a 10-minute drive to the hospital. And so we get in the car, and I call Poison Control Center. And also get in touch with the toxicologist. So I didn't have any toxicologist numbers at the times, like Spencer Green, who's a lifesaver. Literally, he was in line with our toxicologist and head of ER at the time. And so I get on the phone, first call, hey, Poison Control Center, I've had an envenomation. This is a hospital I'll be going to, if you can get in touch with them. The second call was I wanted to give some preparation to the ER. So I phoned in the ER and called the hospital, and nothing. They didn't answer. They sent me to voicemail. I'm like, wow, this is bad. And I didn't want to call 911 at the time, but I was not aware that all of those calls are on scanners and recorded for news. So I call 911. I say, hey, I need to get paged into the ER. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. Like, I just got a bite. I have a protocol. So get to the hospital. And throughout this whole time, I mean, literally 30 seconds in, I'm already feeling symptoms, pins and needles throughout the whole body. So they have cardiotoxins, neurotoxins, post-synaptic. One thing that you go through is ptosis, and that's PTOSIS, which is the numbing of the face and lack of being able to control your muscles. So I know that my speech and the drooling too. So I know that my speech is already starting to get slurred. Time is literally of the essence. I only have so long before my breathing starts going out. The only upside about being bit by a snake that has neurotoxins is, in this situation, is if it really does go south, they can just put you on a ventilator. Unlike some of the necrotic species that you can have with cytotoxins, that'll cause a lot of tissue damage and creeping necrosis, things like that, for at least the African elapids. So get to the hospital. It was COVID at the time, of course. And so I give them the bite protocol. I try to, and I put terrible pressure on them. I mean, they're not supposed to be experiencing things like this. They're in America. They shouldn't be having to deal with a snake bite from a mamba. And
Right.
put a lot of pressure on them. If any of them are watching that, huge apologies. And so stayed in the ER for an hour or two. They got me up to ICU, and kept getting antivenin airlifted from the zoo in South Carolina. And they put a compression wrap on it, because unlike some of the hemotoxic qualities and cytotoxic qualities of other venoms and other snakes, you just want to try and stop those neurotoxins from reaching your nervous system. And so they put on a compression wrap. They got in line with Spencer Green. I said goodbye to my dad. My mom stayed with me. I honestly didn't think that was it was taking so long that I was like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to last. So that was
right. I think you ended up, if I'm not mistaken, in a coma, right?
No. So I stayed conscious. I was going in and out of consciousness, but they just put me on oxygen, and then they got the Cymere polyvalent as antivenin for the bite that I received. So they eventually got it to me, and as soon as they got antivenin in my system, it was almost immediate relief. Near the end of it, I could barely breathe. I was going in and out of chills and shivers. I was trying to fading between consciousness. My speech was almost incoherent at this point in time, but I had my mom sitting there in the room with me, so I'm like, I didn't act okay.
If you don't mind me interrupting, two things. How many vials of antivenom, and what do you think saved your life so quickly in that situation?
So the amount of vials that it took was 4 vials of Cymere polyvalent. And honestly, for me, dude, other than just telling my parents and having somebody there to drive me there, which it would have been smarter to get EMS or have an emergency vehicle, because they can keep you breathing on the spot. Even talking with Spencer, I had symptoms of a full envenomation, and it took 6 hours. I had all the symptoms of a regular envenomation, and it took 6 hours to get antivenin. That's not really common for a mamba bite. Some people can die from a West African green mamba in 45 minutes. They could be dead. So for me, praise God. That's all I can say.
Right. Now, before we move on to the next topic, I wanted to say, like, all that antivenom can be expensive, can't it?
Depending on which antivenom. Actually,
Oh,
Cymere polyvalent is not as expensive as crowfab. So if you took a bite from a copperhead, that's like 12,000 to 10,000 a vial. It's insane. It's more expensive to manufacture, but Cymere polyvalent is pretty dirt cheap, especially for importing. Like bringing it in is the most expensive cost. So I think it was like 4,000 maybe a vial, and that's on a hospital upcharge. So the bill I think was only between, I think it was 36,000.
okay. I know you got all that. You got that bread. I know you got it.
Yeah, thank the Lord for insurance. So that was great. So I was not paying as much as 36,000, which was fantastic.
It's insane story. That is insane, man. So my next question is, working with so many venomous snakes, I've talked to people that literally have self-envenomated themselves to build up an immunity to the venom of the snakes.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing that?
Absolutely not. I have no desire in my soul to do that whatsoever. It's just never something that's ever piqued my interest. And there's a possibility that the opposite can happen. You could become more allergic. There's a chance. So for me, it's never piqued my interest. I'm not a medical professional, so I would have no idea how to do proper dosages in a proper safe scenario. So because I don't work at a toxicology facility, or I'm not milking snakes like Roy Hunter or anything like that, that's out of my league. I wouldn't touch anything like that.
Right now, if you don't mind me asking, right now, actually, we'll go to a hot seat question, man. So
Okay.
I like to have fun sometimes, and I throw a little hot seat question to kind of relieve a little tension.
Yeah.
So when you walk into the room, what theme song is playing? And while you're thinking about that, for me, like if I had as many hots as you guys have, instantly when I walk in the room, Nelly is getting hot. It's gonna instantly start playing.
Man, dude, what's my theme song?
Yeah, when you walk in the room, what theme song is playing when you walk in that room? You got venomous snakes, so it got to be Nelly. It's getting hot in here. All them damn hots.
It's getting hot in here. I could probably vibe with that. I could rock and roll with that.
Nah, you have so much knowledge, man. I want to ask you currently. I know you said your dad got you kind of into the hobby, but who was your mentor? Who was your I watched Star Wars. Yoda. He taught Luke the way of the Force. Who was your Yoda that taught you the way of the venomous snakes?
Other than who taught me the way? Other than when I was younger, I mean, it started off with Steve Irwin. That's what I would watch, but a lot of it was just self-pursuit. I mean, I didn't get on Facebook and reach out with most of venomous community until like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And then I was like, whoa, you got all these other people in this whole community. I didn't know anything about it. For me, it was just a personal passion that I was going to pursue. And so, especially when I had the social media following, I mean, obviously when I was like 16, I would watch YouTube. I'd watch Tyler. I'd watch Chandler. Grew up on Steve Irwin. When I was a kid, I would go to Dean Repa's facility and see this whole serpentarium of all these dream animals. And I was like, I want to follow this someday. My dad, he loved animals, but was never into the venomous. He wasn't, I mean, I think he had a Burmese python as a kid, but that was about it. And so
right.
Pursuit, personal study, personal research. But then the problem came with, all right, I got to find somebody that'll let me work with their animals because I'm not going to go grab an exotic when I have no idea how it's going to act. So that's when I started going to different facilities and zoos and trying to make those connections and eventually getting the hands-on experience with the species I wanted to own.
Right. Now, I want to go. I want to talk about. I think it's Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm going to pop up an email and I'm going to read it. This is an email that I managed to acquire from a congressman that's from Raleigh, North Carolina, and he literally says, "We will look at how Ohio regulates dangerous animals. But his question to the venomous community is, I still haven't been given a reasonable, rational explanation as to why a private citizen who lives in a city should be allowed to keep wild, dangerous animals in their personal possession. He wants to know what is the benefit to society that balances out the risk and danger to society. He says, I get there is a industry around these animals, but there doesn't make it right for such animals to be kept in a city for personal pleasure. So my question to you is, how would you answer that if you were sitting across the table right now
Yeah.
from David Knight, the congressman, or the senator, wherever he is, he's a lawmaker. If you were sitting across from him, how would you answer that?
I think that with my faults and the terrible decision and bad call I made, I mean, I was made such a large mistake that I'm going to have to carry for so long that I wouldn't be the person to answer that. Other than I think that we own our personal freedoms. When any possible reply that I could have is saying there are a lot of other responsible keepers that will not make those same mistakes. You've seen the outrage and the upset that was caused because of my bad judgment call and the mess up that I had. There's not much for me to say other than, I mean, I believe that we're allowed these freedoms. I think that, yeah, I mean, this, to an extent, this is America, you know?
Right. Now, since then, I'm not from North Carolina, but since then, have the laws gotten tighter out there?
There are tons of bills that have been going back and forth. Some haven't gone through, and some are they're like sneaky. Like they'll pass in exportation laws like under a hunting bill, and so they have definitely been trying, but most of them have been getting shut down. And when they have board meetings, I mean, obviously the community has been coming together like crazy to defend that.
Right. Now, this is what everybody's kind of been waiting for. Now, if you don't mind me asking, I do want to talk about it. I want you to take us back to that day because, you know, this is an exclusive. Nobody has heard your side of what happened. So I want you to take us back to that day. You know, you have your Cobra, it's gone. Just give us the rundown. What happened? What did the media not tell? What really happened on that day?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that freaks people out is the Cobra escaped. If this happens, clearly none of his other animals were in secured enclosures, right? That just wasn't true. At this point, I probably had about 20 to 30 snakes. And when you had it at that time, the collection was probably like $15,000 to $20,000 worth. Industry standard when you get any animals in, and everybody should do this, even if they just have 2 ball pythons, is quarantine. At this time, all my cages were labeled, locked, and for the most part secure until I saw that there were 2 zebra spitting cobras for sale, 2 little babies. They were about like 9 inches at the time, and I brought them in, and I had them for about 2 weeks before the incident happened. And the incident happened when I went to go switch enclosures. So when I get animals in, there's a possibility they can have mites, viral infections, ticks, anything. So I go into quarantine. Quarantine setups are super basic, super simple. Paper towel, a hide, water dish, generally in a quad latching or a dual latching tub. I had used one of these tubs for years, but they were kind of in the back of the room. I had them in 6-quart tubs originally, but since they were about 9 inches, I didn't feel comfortable having them in something so small. And I had a rack that I have all my quarantine stuff in. And so I go to grab these tubs that I'm swapping them into. They're a little bit larger, dual latching tubs, label them. And I grab these 2 tubs, put the Cobras in. And at the time, the room, both doors have sweeps on them. It's our basement, but we have some pipes that run through. Every hole in that room we had thought had been sealed. We even foam sealed the cracks that were around the piping for plumbing. We had door sweeps on everything. Any air vents that were in there, we put a grate over it or the wire mesh over it. So thought the room was bulletproof, that even if something small got out, we'd be fine. So I packed these Cobras up. Next morning, when I had slid them into the rack, I was like, all right, they're all good. Turn the lights off, go upstairs, go to bed. Wake up next day, checking all my animals. I get to the zebra spitters, check on the male or the female. I think it was the female that got out. Check on the male. All right, he's still there. Check on the female. Oh. Check on the hide. And I realized that when I went to go open up that opened up the container, that the lid just kind of popped off. Turns out that tub that I had grabbed was the one that had fallen, and so it's, let me see, I'm trying to find a tub that has latches on it.
Sure, take your time.
Essentially, the plastic that holds the tub was a little bit more brittle, and since that was a tub that I hadn't used in a while, it had fell at some point in time and cracked where that latch was supposed to hold on, and it was completely loose. And when it snapped on, I didn't know that there was nothing holding it on that back end. Tub was broke, and since I slid it in this way, I didn't do a full proper inspection. I'd used that tub many times. I didn't know that it had a crack in it near where the latch was on. So, oh crap moment. And at that point, I'm like, all right, this is very bad, but this room should be bulletproof. So first things first is start searching. Tell my parents, tell my mom. Mom is like, well, we need to call and let them know. I am terrified. I am like, this is everybody's worst nightmare. You have a venomous snake out. This is just horrendous. This is bad. There couldn't be anything worse. So me and my dad for 12 hours straight are just searching this room, and it cannot be found anywhere. And everything had stayed in the room. So the next process was get every snake that we had, all the venomous that were in the enclosures, we're putting them in containers, bringing them upstairs, and we opened the back door. And literally, if it was something this big, we took one object out at a time from that room. And there was as methodical as possible. And once everything was out of that basement, when I moved my desk, when I was in high school, we had a desk down there, and we had drilled in a hole into our drywall that went into the crawl space. Hole was about the size of a pin, but with the pattern on the wall, you couldn't really see that hole. When I had kind of moved shop with like where I had my laptop and things like that, I had pulled the Ethernet cable out. And we found out that the only way this snake could have gotten out is through this hole that was drilled in the wall, which was connected to the Ethernet cable. Big, oh crap moment. My mom at that time was like, hey, we should call somebody. We should let animal control know. I'm terrified. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. If this gets out, like, this is going to be horrendous. And it was a full-blown selfish reaction of, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I'm following all the laws, but I mean, this could ruin your life. I don't know if they're going to take my animals. I've never talked with animal control about this. I'm terrified. I convinced my dad that, like, and he hates himself to this day, like, for this choice. I convinced my dad, like, it was November at the time. It's stuck in this house. It's stuck in these walls. And if anything had gotten to the crawl space, which is a fully sealed area that is freezing cold. I mean, the next night it was 30 degrees. So
can I interrupt? I apologize. So you kind of, once you lost it, you kind of like, okay, Dad, it's got to be in this house. And you know, I'm not from North Carolina. How cold are the nights there?
So this was at the end of November. The day it happened was November 31st. I mean, in North Carolina, we just got a 4-inch snow, and that was about a week ago. So near the end of the year, it'll have nights where it drops down into the 30s, and then during the day, it'll be back up to the 60s. It just depends. We get cold snaps here and there, and so at the night that it had gotten out, it was dropping down into the mid 30s. Which
so with it being outside, you kind of were like, you know what, that is either in this house, but if it's gotten outside, you know. Selfishly, you kind of like, you know what? It's no way this Cobra can survive the winter.
Winter, there's not a food source. For me, I'm like, if there is a chance that this snake did get outside, it is winter. It is a baby, captive-born, high metabolism. It's going to need a food source. It's going to need warmth. If there is a chance that it is out of this household, it's dead. If it is in the household, it's going to die without food, or just from the cold being in the walls or being in the crawl space. So we ended up getting chemicals, and we bombed the crawl space in the basement as a last measure. And for a week straight, every single day for hours, we would just look and look and look. And my assumption, being it a relatively terrestrial, sometimes even fossorial species of cobra, is if it is in this household, it is sitting down somewhere buried, and it's just gonna shrivel up and die a cold death.
Okay. So, so that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And you know, how did it end up to where you was like, you know what? Okay, I have to tell somebody. And before we start, shout out to the Grimizadis. He said he appreciates you being humble enough to help others learn from your experiences.
Yeah. And what was that?
Um,
And what was that question you had?
So, like, what happened to the point where he's like, okay, I have to tell somebody because, it's November, it's January, December, January, February. What happened to where he's like, okay, hey, I made a boo-boo. What happened?
Well, nobody other that stayed, but it was months. It was probably 3 months of just straight anxiety, setting out little traps outside the house, just freaking out. But once we had hit a snow, and once it had probably gotten about like January or February, when it was definitely down and we had gotten a snow, it had gotten down into the 20s at some point in time. The anxiety kind of eased. And so it was like, well, it's dead. I just think that was it. That's all we're ever going to hear from it. I don't think that I think that's dead. I think that's gone. I think that was a huge mistake. I need to completely reinvest. If I'm going to keep these animals, the focus needs to be there. There cannot be any more mistakes like that. And there was nobody that I had told. I think
right.
I think that I was in a group chat. And I think I might have told somebody on FaceTime. But that was last November that had happened. And so I don't really recall, other than probably that night of thinking I'm going to find it in the basement. I don't think that anybody had known other than me and my dad and my mom.
Right. Now, my question to you is, do you think the judge's decision was fair? And what was it? First, backtrack. Let's rewind. Okay. What was because we all see the blogs and stuff, but you were there. What was the judge's actual decision, fine wise and other? How long that you can't touch your snakes. What was
There's a difference between the judge and the attorney.
Yeah.
And I will say, if I am going to talk about this specifically, I'm going to have to preface with my answer necessarily doesn't really matter. Obviously, it's going to be biased. Some people told me I was getting thousands of DMs on social media. Some people were telling me I needed to go kill myself. Some people were saying my parents deserve to be in jail. Daily people telling me to kill myself. They're going to come beat my ass. I was getting threats ridiculously. A few weeks ago, we have neighbors that are still pretty upset. The process of when it was in court, it doesn't really matter what the judge wanted. It was between the attorneys. So the judge was sitting there going, this kid has a clean record and he made a mistake. Why is he being charged $13,000 for restitution? The judge was like, I'm going to let it, when they found out I was being put on probation as well, he's like, well, his whole his life is social media. I'm going to allow him to travel for work. And he waived all of the fines, all the court fines that I had, because he said he had never seen such a high restitution with a criminal case. And he had been a judge for 15 years. So the judge was probably in favor of trying to help me out as a terrified 21-year-old kid, not knowing what was going on. The attorney, on the other hand, the attorney wasn't wanting to budge on much at all. Obviously, originally there were 40 charges. All 39 were dismissed because if we took them to trial, they would have lost those. It was just kind of what they were trying to attack me for, as many things as possible, all of which were pretty fallible. And I would say that at the end of this was a $70,000 mistake. I lost a $30,000 collection worth of animals. The woman who took the animals and was keeping care of them, I had to pay her $13,000 for keeping those animals for 1 month. It was very hard on my family financially, mentally and emotionally. It's not fun to tell people to see the messages, kill yourself daily, man. People threatening. I didn't feel safe going outside. People telling me they were going to come to my house. We had cars driving by our house all the time, sitting there, taking pictures. The news media was just blasting my family name, my address, my parents. And I get it. I messed up, and it's understandable that people were going to be mad. It was the dumbest decision I've ever made in my life, and I have to live with that. But with the amount of hatred I got, and with the loss that I took, it was crazy. I'm not a criminal. I don't do things that are criminal. And so to sit there and be put on probation for a mistake that has already pretty much ruined your life. I lost all the animals I love. I got hated daily. It was literally a $70,000 loss. All of my entire career, the day before the seizure and the animals were taken, I had dropped $14,000 on new racks, new enclosures for a full new quarantine room. I had bought new animals and a shipment that was going to be going to a reptile show, and that was the day before. And so I didn't have that same financial cushion that I had. I was left pretty high and dry, not to mention the paying for a lawyer, the restitution, and the investments lost.
Well, I want to tell you this. People make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, this is my podcast, so I'll say what I want. I'm telling you, I forgive you because, nobody knows what they would do in a situation like that until it happens. I couldn't imagine losing a Cobra and then I got to tell somebody. Oh no, like it's so hard. So whether it took you a couple months or not, I commend you on actually finally going and saying, look, I made an error. Whatever punishment I get, I'll accept that. And I will say this, I think that the reptile community needs more of that, because I get it. There are laws being passed and stuff, and USARC is coming for us. But, USARC needs us to come together. If we're constantly fighting and bickering, how can we focus on the senators that are making laws? It's like if me and you are the reptile hobby and we're in a house, and the senators have a crowbar trying to break in. Am I going to try and fight you, or am I going to try and go fight the senator? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
And trust me, I get it. There have been a lot of people, and even the people who had taken the animals, when animal control after the bite had found out that I had these animals, I was getting messages from them saying they were so happy that they had finally seen a collection that was getting taken care of well. They get calls all the time where they have to go out where you get some guy that has a 6-foot Cobra and a 20-gallon tank with no locks on it. And so all these people just thought that was me. They didn't know that I have taken care of my animals. They were all healthy. I had tried to follow the laws as best I could. But like you had said, I didn't know that I would freak out like that. The mental pressure of when that animal got out, the biggest thing is I wish I could do something to remedy the situation. I wish I could go, hey, this is how I want to help the community. But there's not much I feel as if I could do. And that's why, and I was not, I had Vice reaching out, seeing it. Everybody wanted to do an interview. Nobody was there for the animals. They would have twisted it. So when I had you reach out and say, hey, I want to do something where we could possibly actually remedy this situation, then yeah, took it immediately.
I thank you for coming on here and just telling your story, because like I said, shit happens, and I feel like we as a community, we have to come together. Who holds a grudge forever? Like, I get it. Shit happened. He made a mistake, but are you just going to just fuck him forever in life? Never. No, we are humans, and I think that we should forgive. So to me, I love that you were so humble to come on here and tell your story. Now, if you don't mind me asking, if there one thing that you could tell the community right now, what would it be? If the whole community was here, what would you like to tell them?
You could be analytical about it and say, lock your cages, make sure you're prepared. But like you had said, the phrase shit happens. It does. So I would say is every time I've seen an instance, keep in mind where people are coming from. Some people can't handle the hate. I could handle the hate because at the time, I deserved it. I made a really, really bad mistake. But just show love. Show love. Simply put. See where people are coming from, because it's the person that wants to get into these animals and they get yelled at and called an idiot. They're going to go get the animal anyways, but then they're going to go do it wrong. And everybody looks at the media. Everybody looks at the hate. So it's like, if we really want to put a good face on for this whole community, show love.
I agree. So now my question to you is, how long is it before you can actually own another snake, if you don't mind me asking?
So I can currently own non-venomous or non-medically significant snakes But until I can own Venomous, it'll be about what's today?
It is, I think, the 29th.
The 29th. So in 3 months and 8 days, I believe, is when, or no, 6 months and 8 days until I can own venomous snakes again.
Six months, you said?
Yes, sir.
I'm excited for you. When you can own Venomous again, what's the first Venomous you get?
Ooh, that's a hot seat question. Because there's a lot of people that no matter what, they're gonna be hateful. So I don't know if jokingly I want to run back in and be like, all right, guys, we're starting out slow and try and find like a 12-foot king cobra. Or I had people telling me that they were gonna put their money together to buy me a zebra spitting cobra as my first venomous. Which I don't know if I would want that anymore. But other than that, man, I think I want to get a sharp-nosed viper. I want my Acudus back, Deonicushagon Acudus. I definitely want another copperhead. I love copperheads, bro. They're like a good southern copperhead, gorgeous. So I'm thinking either between like a copperhead, a sharp-nosed viper, or dude, I don't know. I love them all. There's no like, who knows?
I love it, man. I love it, man. Now, currently, you're down in Florida, man. I see all those vision cages behind you. If you don't mind me asking, kind of tell people what you're doing right now down in Florida.
Okay, so currently I'm working.
I'm gonna put you on solo so we can see those visions.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, so we got some Super Bell's phase lace monitors. I'm working down with my buddy. He's an importer in Florida. He does a ton of stuff from Europe. Huge collection. So he imports, exports, has a personal collection for himself, of course. But when you get huge shipments like this, then I'm here helping him out. Now, this is definitely going to be more of a temporary thing. I've been coming down for a few weeks at a time. But yeah, so currently just taking care of animals, helping them get shipped in, shipped out, taking care of them, making sure they're good, all sorts of stuff.
Right. Everybody in the chat, man, let's get those likes up. Let's get those super chats up. We got somebody here sharing their story, and it's remarkable. Now, my next question to you is, it's going to happen. Whether you still get the hate or not, you're getting back into the hobby. You're going to own Venomous again one day. So if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the things that you are going to do differently once you are able to own venomous snakes again?
So I had, when I own venomous snakes again, I'm probably going to be more species specific. Definitely, I would own sometimes I would own animals like, for example, a blue insularis or a yellow eyelash. Obviously, I want to bring in animals that were going to draw attention to people that would love them. Nobody's going to hate a neon blue snake. For me personally, smaller arboreal vipers weren't really my fancy, but I did it because I knew that people had loved them. I think that I don't want to say that there's going to be a difference in pace, but there's definitely going to be a difference in what animals I want and how I have my enclosures. I don't want to do racks anymore. I think I still have all my remaining enclosures, but I think I'll probably be a little slower for the first year. And after that, just continue with what I want. So personal collection will probably be minimized, and it'll be just my favorite target species, not animals. There was a lot of testing. Like, okay, I've never worked with these animals. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy them, so I would buy it. So it's like, I've always loved gaboons. Maybe I'll like rhinos. I got a rhino viper, and I'm like, it doesn't hit the same.
I love it, man. This has been an insane hour. Just like I said, your life is insane. And I'm gonna say it, from being bit by a mamba and surviving, from losing a snake and panicking. I would have panicked too.
Yeah.
So I can't fault you for that. You reported it. You took your punishment. I say, he did the crime. He did his time. It was a big mistake, but I feel like you could be a tool now. And what I say by that is, you could actually help our fight. You could speak. You could go to public engagement and say, this is what happened. This is what I learned from it. You know what I mean? I feel like you could be a tool to help our community instead of people using you to hinder us. I feel like we all just need to come together, and just like you said, love on each other, man. So again, man, I appreciate you, man. Now, I do want to know, man, I got to ask this. We all need reptile supplies and shit like that. So how many times have you went into like a reptile store and they're like, shit, that's the Cobra guy?
Dude, I was I was far. Sometimes the only stores that were local is I would go to. There was a tiny shop up in Raleigh that I would eventually get like I would get live feeders from, and they knew me. They were like, "That's Cobra guy." But man, I avoided the public after this. Those first that first month and a half when everything had happened, I was like, "Oh, I'm done." But then I have my buddies who are like, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, you remember the Cobra? That was my friend." And so this is a shit experience. So when I had a buddy, he worked at Outback. The entire Outback Steakhouse crew, they all know me, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, have Cobra Kush come on by."
That is insane, man. That is insane, man. Give us, next question, man. Give us your plans on social media, man. Some are probably gonna not like this comment, but I don't care. TikTok is ass. You need to get on YouTube, grow your YouTube, man. TikTok is ass. I think, and I'm gonna tell you why. This is just my personal opinion. I don't like. I feel like that's the fast food service of social media. Bam, let me get 20 seconds and I'm gone. I don't like that. I wanna be able. I'm old school. Let me shoot a 5-minute video. You come on, you watch it, and I think YouTube is the wave because 600,000 on TikTok. She needs to come to YouTube. She'd have had that plaque.
I know. And so the amazing part about TikTok is the growth rate, and it's a way to share your platform. So it's like I really like it. For one, ease of use. I am illiterate on YouTube. Like I cannot. It's making videos, formatting like that. I definitely want to get on YouTube, but I think the golden age of YouTube is kind of ended. It's still good, but the golden age is gone. And so I think that as new apps come along, it's important that I stay up to date on these apps. Instagram Reels, I try a few videos on it. Now Facebook's doing videos, TikTok. I think that it's a great tool if used right. But again, I agree. You can pursue a career on YouTube. You can't really do the same on TikTok.
Think about it. Hold on. I'm gonna interrupt. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me get this bot.
Come on, brother.
You got to think about it. TikTok, Summer got 600,000. TikTok, you got like 500,000.
Yeah.
You know what YouTube would be paying y'all if y'all had those numbers on YouTube? That my check is cool. Now, if I had 500,000, you couldn't tell me shit on YouTube. I'd be like, I'm famous. Get out of here.
Oh, I know. But the growth, it's so hard. It's not as easy. It takes time. It takes a lot of, you have to fully pursue it if you're going to go for it, on YouTube.
So what's your plans? You going to get back on YouTube or you going back to TikTok?
My plan is I'm going to stick with my plan right now is work full time, get back on my grind, get back in a healthy mental state. And I'm going to post as I see fit and that'll be on social media, that'll be on my phone. And eventually, here in the next 6 months, I want to learn how to properly edit and put together a video that I can for YouTube. So I'm going to stick with YouTube. I'm going to stick with the animals. I'm going to stick with doing what I love. And that's entertainment, education.
Well, I love it, man. This was an amazing hour. Again, like I said, you no matter what people say to you, this is my opinion. You are a part of the hobby, and we need people like you to share your experiences. We need you to not be fucking banned to where you don't even want to tell people, hey, this is what happened. Don't do what I did. You know what I mean? You need those people to learn from. And like I said, I'm not going to say that it wasn't a big mistake. It was huge, but you have paid your price. You have done what the judge has ordered. So now I feel like it's time for the community to be like, okay, how can we use this kid? How can we use this young man? What can we do for this young man to help us now? You know what I mean? And I just thank you, man. Thank you for coming on here and giving us an amazing hour. Don't go anywhere. I'm getting ready to end the podcast. Before we leave, is there anything you want to say?
Well, I am so incredibly sorry. I was a big goofball. I made a dumb mistake. And whether you hate me or whether you love me, I love you. And that's all that matters. And glory to God.
Right. I love it, man. I love that you gave us your story because News is not going to tell the whole story.
Oh,
I was under the impression, you took the snake outside and it just slithered off, and no, it was in your house and it got out of a hole. That I'm not even gonna lie, that shit happened to me. I lost a corn snake before. Thank God it wasn't a cobra.
Funny story before we ended off. There was a lot of hate, but there were a lot of people, and this was crazy to me. They were coming to me and they were like, "Hey, I know people are angry. I've had X, Y, and Z happen." Tons of people were coming to me saying, "Hey, I've had this similar thing happen. Hey, I literally had something with Venomous. Thank God it stayed in the house." I get it. And so when the word, stuff happens, man, it does. And I pray that you don't make the same mistake I did, because I would have saved myself so much trouble if as soon as it happened, I made a call. If I got over me being scared and I wasn't an idiot, I could have saved a lot of time, could have saved a lot of bad publicity.
Right. And I love that you're just so down to earth to tell people that and share your story. I'm gonna share my story. I lost a snake. It was a corn snake, and my wife is here. That's her. I highlighted the comment. My first snake that I ever got was a corn snake, and I had it in like a 20-gallon.
Yeah.
But I work a shit ton of overtime. And I went and I bought this. It was like a 50, 60-gallon long, big ass enclosure. I mean, the top literally open like this. You know what I'm saying? It was a huge enclosure. I was like, I got a new snake.
Yeah.
I don't want no little cage. I'm about to get it. And I didn't know, because I was new to the hobby. I was like, I'm about to give it the biggest. I'm about to give my snake a fucking mansion. It's about to have the biggest fucking cage ever.
Oh yeah.
I put it in, and it was a baby. I put it in this cage, and I went to work, and I came home, and I looked at it. And I looked in and the snake was gone. I promise you, hand to God, I broke down crying. I said, "Honey, I'm mad. My snake is gone. We got to go get me another snake right now." And this is why I got a ball python, because I was like, "No, I don't need no little skinny ass snake sneaking out the cage.
Bro,
give me a fat ass." This is what I said. This is what I told her. Let me tell you. This is what I told her. I said, "Give me a fat ass snake that can't get out."
Yeah, I feel you there, bro.
Anyways, man, amazing hour. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for coming. This was an amazing podcast. I'm so happy that she said it. Oh, he lost his mind. Crocodile tears. She's not bullshitting either. I did. My heart was broke. I said, "Oh shit, my snake is gone."
Yeah.
This was an amazing podcast. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna go backstage because I want to thank you again before we end this. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Chris, for coming on and sharing your story, telling us what happened. You told us what happened. You told us what you would do different, what you took away from the situation. I feel like this was insightful. It was an amazing hour. Again, shout out to the sponsors. Make sure you go check out Ozzy Boyd's, Venomproof Cages, Balls to You, Mike's Monitors. Please go give them some love. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Much love to my wife. Thank you so much for supporting me. Shout out to My Animal House for the super chat. I appreciate you. And everybody in the chat, man, y'all make sure y'all go subscribe to all those people. They're good people. We getting ready to get up out of here. This is Big Reptile Talk, and we'll holler at y'all later.
You don't start things and not finish them. You don't quit. There's nothing that comes out of quitting besides knowing that you didn't finish. We finish everything. You start it, finish it. If you're going to do it to try to be the best. Not to be better than other people, but to be the best for you. You grind hard so you can play hard. The work you put in will pay off. It could be a year, it could be 30 years, but you keep grinding. Welcome